Okay, thanks everyone. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time. I do have some slides because I always find not only is that helpful for me, but it's also helpful for people who are visual. Sometimes looking at something or looking at some images or words can help you focus on what's kind of being presented at the time. So I'll do that, but I'm going to kind of go straight through, and then we'll have, and this is helpful for the kind of videotaping of this, especially as LHSC puts these on YouTube. So I'm going to go straight through with the message I want to talk about, and then we will have time at the end for some questions, for some interactive conversations on this topic. All right, so just have a few things that I really want to share today. As many of you may know, the theme for this month is the art of gratitude. And Cindy did a wonderful job last week presenting things about gratitude and some practices that we can all use. And I think we all know that, especially in the month of November, as we're approaching Thanksgiving, it's the time that, at least in this country, we become a little bit more mindful of gratitude and being thankful. But I certainly think that's changing too. But it is a month that we think about it a little bit more or pay attention to it. And that's a good thing. So I'm going to share a couple of things. And I entitled my thing, Evolving and Embodying Gratitude in a New World. So I just want to add and share a couple of my own perspectives about how I think gratitude is even changing a little bit, or the notion of gratitude is changing and has been changing over time. So the first thing I want to talk about is just evolution. I think I love this picture. I thought it was really cool that it was in the shape of the infinity circle, but I think we all know that we have been evolving as a species for many, many, many years, and that evolution is a good thing. I don't think many of us wish we were still going out as hunter and gatherers and using, wooden spears to get our food and all that, that we have learned a lot, that our nature as human beings is to grow and to evolve. And we all know that that is a wonderful thing. But we love the idea of evolution and the concept of evolution, but sometimes we don't always like being in the midst of evolution and change. Now, I want you to think just for a minute about, does the word evolution and evolving have a different feel to you and a different energy than the word change? Just think about that for a minute. Because as human beings, there was a Harvard professor, and I'm forgetting his name right now, who wrote a book called Immunity to Change. And he was basically talking about that, how humans and many organizations are very afraid of change, as we know. So again, we like the concept of change, but actually doing it. I like the idea of being, in my best physical shape, but the idea of getting out there and exercising every day and eating as best as I can is a whole nother practice. But yet the idea of evolution is something that we are in a jump right now in terms of our evolution. And the thing about evolution is that, as we know, evolution is good, but on the other hand, we are programmed in some ways to protect ourselves and to be safe. So things about change and evolving as human beings feel scary at times. Because it doesn't feel safe to the cells in our body and our nervous systems. It doesn't always feel safe. So I just wanted to hold on to that idea, because in evolution, we're still holding on to a lot of things that don't serve us anymore, that we don't need or are not good for us, but it's part of that protective nature that we all do as human beings, as we all know. So I just want to talk for a minute about this concept of a new earth that many of you might have read Eckhart Tolle's book years ago, called The New Earth, where that was the first time I read something that kind of opened my eyes to the shift in consciousness that was coming. And he talked about, and these are all, some of the things he talks about, but that we know that are going on right now in terms of this new earth coming. It's a time of awakening, of new perspectives, creativity, radical growth and transformation, healing, releasing and surrendering in a different way, certainly more in an energetic and somatic way, in a body way than just from the mind, how healing used to be in the past. But we know we're in a sense of a time of great change. So we know this. And as part of that is, well, how does evolution affect gratitude and our concept of gratitude? So what we know, I want you to think just for a minute, and we'll talk about this at the end of Zoom. What was gratitude like in your family growing up? Was that something that was talked about? Was it mainly something that was talked about at Thanksgiving time, being thankful? Was it something that you associated with, well, I was taught that I had to say thank you to all the adults in my life. Grandma came over and I had to say thank you for my birthday present, Grandma. But just to hold for a minute, what was that concept of gratitude as a child? And we all know that being grateful and thankful is good, but it has changed from when we were all children. So I just want you to hold that thought for a minute. But as in the last couple of decades, science began to really investigate this whole notion of gratitude. And we began to really study gratitude and see that gratitude had incredible physical benefits, mental, emotional, spiritual benefits. It was good for our exchange and our relationship with one another. So we do know that sense of gratitude, and I know positive psychology, really a lot of the studies, those who are involved with positive psychology really opened the door to being able to prove or to show evidence about the benefits of gratitude. So then we moved to, in some ways, over the next couple of years, kind of mainstreaming gratitude. So this is just a thing by Chris Jenner, of a post where you began to see more and more a sense of people talking about gratitude and posting it on social media. And it became very much a popular thing to talk about. Over on the right side, those three things, my health, my family, my job, sometimes when people are asked, what are they most grateful for? Those are three common things they talk about. And in some ways, the mainstreaming of gratitude led us to a place that there was a danger of what I'm calling gratitude platitudes, which was in some ways just a sense of like, well, what are you grateful for? Oh, my family, my health, and my job. When I was a child growing up Catholic, I went to confession every weekend or often, and you had to, usually about 3 sins you had to talk about. And I gave the same three sins every week: that I was disobedient to my parents, I lied, and I fought with my brothers and sisters. And every week I went in. So in some ways I could call those confession platitudes. I didn't really think, did I really do those things, or was that something? It just became, yep, that's what my 3 sins are. And I went in and told those every week, and then came out clean, which was really wonderful, until I got in the cars and started fighting with my brothers. And then I had that black spot on my soul again, and it was all ruined from there. But anyway, begin just to think a little bit about gratitude platitudes, that even sometimes you'll have people say to you, or maybe you've experienced this, if you're in a low mood, well, just be grateful for what you have that's good. And, sometimes we use gratitude as a way of denying what we're really feeling too. That it can be a sense of, not really getting to the heart of what gratitude is all about. But sometimes just be grateful, we're not really thinking of what that means. So what I want to talk about is, how do we change that a little bit, or take gratitude to the next step or a little deeper? And that's what I call transforming gratitude. And in some ways, it's how do we transform gratitude from not a purely mental exercise, but somewhat about, I'm thinking about what I'm grateful to really an embodiment of the heart. And I know those of you who have seen me speak before or know me know that I'm very influenced by heart math. But this is the thing from heart math that I repeat over and over again, because I have to remind myself about it, is that the electromagnetic, field waves of the heart are 5,000 times more powerful than the brain. And when you really think about that, I just keep saying to myself, boy, are we accessing that power? Are we truly accessing that power? And so, you can think of the same thing with gratitude. It's similar to affirmations, where you can sit and say, I'm a powerful person, I'm a powerful person, I'm a powerful person, and not feel that at all. And it really doesn't help in the long run. That we all know that from manifesting and other things, that there has to be a balance between the mind and also the heart and feeling it. So the idea, the idea of what does it mean in some ways, and I'm just going to give you two suggestions for how to consider transforming this gratitude and evolving gratitude so that it has a little bit of a deeper meaning and just a different experience possibly for all of us. So the first way is that we have to feel gratitude. And it's kind of a funny thing to say, but I put this here because when I think of myself, for most of my life, feeling was not an easy thing for me to do. I could certainly say that I was a feeling person, but when I was a child, having feelings were not always accepted. And my guess is many of you experienced the same things. And there were good feelings and there were bad feelings as a child. So that, or I was often told, I was an emotional child, so I was often told to stop being so emotional, stop being so dramatic, stop feeling. And so I learned to adapt and to be very frightened of my feelings because I felt there were ones that made me disconnect from my family or be rejected from my family, and ones that were okay to have in the family. So I think on some level, there's a piece of us that are afraid of embodying the heart because also there's that pain in there that we're afraid to open up. But the first way in some ways of transforming gratitude to think about is, do we really feel them? So I want you just for a minute, and again, we'll talk about this at the end, is to think about something you're grateful for right now. Just let whatever comes to your head, just think about, anything that comes to your head about something that you're grateful for. And what I'd like you to do then is just to take it, and you may want to close your eyes, that might help. I want you to see if you can bring the energy to check into your body and see if you feel comfortable saying, where is my energy right now? Is it up in my head, which sometimes we're not even aware? Am I thinking what I am feeling grateful for? And just through your breath, through breathing a couple times, just breathe it down to your heart. Just imagine the energy with every breath kind of moving down, moving down, moving down. And just see if you can bring it into your heart. And then I want you to think about what you were just thinking about in terms of what you were grateful for. And what was it? I want you to feel it now. And I want you to put some feeling words to it in your head. So rather than, instead of, I'm grateful for my family, you might say, I'm grateful when I feel speaking of hugs, when I feel the hug from a family member. I'm grateful when I taste my mother's or my sister's favorite stew, and I'm gathered together with everyone in the room. So try to put sounds and tastes and textures and see if it feels any different, rather than just, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for my health. What about your health? I'm grateful when I'm going for a walk and I actually feel the strength of my body. I'm grateful rather than I'm grateful for nature, I'm grateful when I hear the sound of a bird on a beautiful spring day. And see if you can feel the energy change in your body. So in this way, we're reframing, we are adding words, we are taking the energy to a deeper place where all of a sudden the gratitude feels a little bit different because you're using different words. And those words, again, are sensory words. We want to take it just from our head and our mind down into our bodies to a place of really feeling that. And all of a sudden, when you're with people, what is happening is your heart is opening when you feel those things. And then our ability to connect to people and really feel that gratitude, it changes. And so it opens up our relationships and lots of different things happen. So it's a great exercise to practice even on your own. When you think of something you're grateful for, just to say, okay, I'm going to stop and just try to, to use my senses of sight and sound and taste and all that, just to break down what it is that you're actually grateful for. And I love, this is one of my favorite quotations from Maya Angelou. And I think it's right on, but she says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Because what we really want, everything that we want in life and desire, is because of how we think it's going to make us feel. We think we want money, but that's because we want the feeling of independence or freedom or whatever that is. So, this idea of embodying gratitude in a different way than just let it being a mind exercise, but really bringing it down into the body and practicing that over and over again makes you feel better, and increases your serotonin and all those benefits of gratitude. Just thinking it in the head, in the mind helps, but embodying it makes a tremendous difference. So the second way I want to propose is to see gratitude in a new light. And this is, in some ways, I always love to go back to the etymology of words. And one of the etymologies of gratitude, so the original root comes from the Latin root gratus. And one of the words that it means is welcome. And I really like that. I mean, it means appeasing and all this stuff, but it also means welcome. And I started to think about that. And I thought, well, how do you see gratitude in a way that is welcoming to everything in some ways that comes up in our lives? And historically, when you think about it, gratitude has often been about the polarization of good and bad. So I'm grateful for the things that are good in my life. I'm not grateful for the things sometimes that are hard. We're getting a little better about saying that, like I can see the gift in them. But more than not, we think about gratitude about the things that bring about a good feeling, the things that make us feel stronger, more connected to people. So in some ways, the reward and punishment kind of idea that, gratitude is those ways that I've been rewarded in my life, whether by a higher, power from childhood or something, and then there's ways that somehow I feel punishment and we're not grateful for those things because we feel like we're being punished. So those are those old things, even from our childhood, that come over and over again. And so this is the way, in some ways, that I want to propose of seeing gratitude in a new life. The first time I heard of this was from the spiritual teacher, Matt Kahn. And I've read about this in a number of other places since then and thought about it a lot in my life, is how do we really believe that everything is here to help us? And how does this apply to gratitude? So I can read this and say, yeah, of course, I believe everything is here to help me. Up in my head, I believe that because that's what I've learned. I can say, yeah, the things I don't like, on some ways, they're helping me to grow and evolve. But how, again, if we go back to the first tool, how do we feel this? If you really sit with this in your body and you say, everything is here to help me, does that resonate? Do you believe that? Or is there part of you that you think, no, there are good things that are helping me and there are things that I wish I could just get rid of. And if I could get rid of those things, then everything would be okay in my life. So that, again, we're separating that, from one place to another. So this is a quotation by Matt Kahn, in this new spiritual paradigm, our spiritual journey requires us to evolve from the soul point of view. So I want us to look in some ways to think about what does that mean to look at things from a soul point of view, and what does that mean in terms of what we are grateful for. I had a great story that I heard a story about this little 7-year-old girl who came home one day and she said to her parents just at dinner time, hey, can we go around the table? I want to talk about what my rose was and what my thorn was for today. And it was her family was like, where'd she get this from? But it was the first time she had ever said that. But she said, and she went to talk about what was good about her day and then what was hard about her day and what felt like a thorn. And that actually has become a practice in their family, that at dinner every night they talk about what is a rose and what is a thorn in their day. And I thought, boy, if every child was talking about that and learning that it's okay to have something that feels hard or doesn't feel good or feels challenging, like what an incredible amount of emotional intelligence we would have in this world. But as we all know, a rose has thorns. That's kind of divine design, because the smelling of roses, because they were so sweet smelling, that the thorns were protecting animals from always eating the roses. So there's a divine design in everything in this world. And I think we know that again in our heads and in our minds, that everything is here to help us to evolve, to become, because this is all about becoming the person we were intended to be in our life. And if we think of it that way, then everything that is happening. So I look back to even, boy, I can have done, worked with plenty of therapists where I have complained about, my parents and my siblings didn't let me have my emotions, and I didn't feel safe to be me. And I can look back at that and feel like, how sad was that I grew up not feeling really safe to be who I really truly was. And I can be mad at that. And I can think, if that hadn't happened, I might be a very different person today. And then there's another part of me that's kind of the mind saying that kind of, I'm controlling, if life had happened a different way, I would be a better person or more who I think I should be. Rather than, wow, isn't it interesting? Growing up in that family, in wonderful family, but growing up at the time Irish Catholic, that's just what we did. But growing up in that family has made me have the transformation that I've had the last number of years, or later on in my life, which has enabled me to share that with other people in a very different way, because I get it. I understand and I have empathy. If I had not grown up with that, when someone said to me, well, I wasn't allowed to have feelings in my family, I'd be like, oh, that's too bad. I didn't experience that. But now I have incredible empathy. So what are the things in our life that we look at that we don't feel grateful for? But really, if we really believe that every single thing that has gone on in our life is contributing to making us the person we were intended to be, we could take this from a political level, how much this is not about good or bad, right or wrong, us, them. So how often have we said, if for some people, and maybe not everyone on this call has the same political views, but if we said, as many people have, if Hillary Clinton had been elected rather than Donald Trump, we would be in a much better place. Rather than trusting the divine design that everything is here to help us. And that Trump really served as a wake-up call for so many people. And that if he had not been in office for the last 4 years, we may not have had the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement to the degree that we have. Maybe we would have, but we may not have. So when we trust and believe, not only in our world, that everything is happening by divine design, and we can be grateful for that, then the same is true for our own lives. Now, I really have to make a special little point here, and it's very important for everyone to hear this. When you practice this, and this is a practice, because this does not happen overnight. And my guess is some of you have already, are familiar with this concept and are already practicing it. But our brains are so hardwired to think the other way that this takes practice to keep looking at it this way. But wanting to believe or take on this point of view, the soul point of view, that everything is here to help us, does not mean we have to like it. And that's really key, because I think we think, if I don't like it, then it must be, bad, or we associate that. And there's some part of that our emotions do help us with that. But in this case, we don't have to like it. It can feel uncomfortable, because growth feels uncomfortable. When I had my child 33 years ago, I was giving birth, as we all are doing right now, and as the world is doing right now, to a new earth, a new paradigm. It did not feel good to be giving birth. In fact, it hurt like hell. And yet, when my daughter was born, there was a relief, and I knew, but at the time, believe me, I was not sitting in labor saying, I know this is here to help me. Everything is fine. This is all good. So it's okay to not like things that on some level, but it's taking a step back and saying, I don't like it. It doesn't feel good, but there's going to be a piece of me that's going to try, or be willing, or be open to being grateful for this, believing that everything is here to help me. And everything is here and helping me and bringing me to the place, again, that I can be the true me. I can be the person I was born to be. So I love this quote by Martha Beck, and I couldn't find it clear, so sorry about the resolution in it, but it says, we're here for the experience of being human, period. That means no moment of your life has ever been wasted, and you cannot get this wrong. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a minute, and I'm going to read that again, because I think it's really powerful. But again, I can read it and I can say, oh, I believe that. And then let's try to feel this in our bodies and see if you have some resistance to it or what it brings up for you. We are here for the experience of being human, period. That means no moment of your life has ever been wasted, and you cannot get this wrong. And just sit with that for a minute and kind of record, and we can talk about that in a little bit later, how that feels to you. I think that's a really powerful thing. And in some ways, this idea of believing that this is what our purpose and mission is right now, and that our greatest tool for this is our heart and our breath, of bringing ourselves down into our bodies, is really an important piece of this. Okay, so everyone can open their eyes again. Come on back for a minute. But when you think about it, I'm going to talk about the new moon in Redmond. Well, let me just go back to the last. So in this idea that we're being human, in some ways being on a spiritual journey, which we all are, and some of us are just more conscious of it than others. But in many ways, it's one of our greatest challenges, because even being on a spiritual journey, we often think we have to get it right. We have to do it right. We have to, rather than we just have to experience life with an open heart and be okay, be grateful for every emotion, everything that comes up in our life. And that has been in my own life something I've really struggled with, and I'm getting better and better. But boy, when those moments come up where my old story I attach to about I've done something wrong, I don't feel good, I've messed up my life, if it had only been a different way, all that, as we're releasing the ego and transforming the egos, all those stories, but coming back to that sense of everything is here to help me, and everything always works out. We have a very different sense of how we look at gratitude, in our lives. So I just want to end with a little bit of a quiet meditation, and I am going to read something, but what I want us just to think about today was kind of I realize, a perfect timing for even thinking about these things, because tonight is a new moon. And if you know about, aware of full moons and new moons, full moons is often when we release, and new moons are times for setting intentions. It's like a clean slate. It's like the cycle, the monthly cycle of moons, is that every time there's a new moon, there's a way that we can just set a new intention for that month, a way of, like I said, a clean slate, a way of just allowing ourselves, giving ourselves permission to be more of that person we were intended to be. So in this meditation we're going to do right now, just connecting to that, and whether I'm going to read something during this, I'm going to have you center a little bit, I'm going to read something, and then I'd like you to, at the end of it, I'm going to ask you to think about an intention for this month during this new moon. So I'm going to ask you now just to close your eyes and get into a comfortable place. And I'm going to ask you just to take a couple of breaths in and out. And hopefully your feet are on the ground, so your energy is coming up from the ground through your feet, kind of moving through each one of your chakras. And with every breath, you relax a little bit more. I want you to think of the energy from the earth moving up through your body, like in a straight line, going straight up the front of your body to the top of your head. And at the top of your head, at your crown chakra, there's an opening. And I want you to imagine a beam of light coming from above your head, down in through the top of your head, washing over the back of your head, down your back, down your shoulders, down your spine, down the back of your legs, and then back to your top of your head, and imagine that warm light, almost like a liquid, or however it feels good to imagine it, coming down over your face, over your jaw, your chest, down into your stomach, down through your legs. And just keep taking slow breaths and feeling that warm energy just circulating throughout your body. Now I want you to bring that light into your heart. And I want you to take 3 very deep breaths in and out of your heart. And every time you breathe in, I want you to breathe in self-compassion. Just keep thinking of self-compassion. You are protected, you are safe. And just keep breathing that in and out of your heart as I read this passage. And be mindful and aware of anything it brings up for you. And just try to feel the words rather than just listen to and hear and understand the words. See what, maybe there'll be a word that really jumps out at you, and just hold on to that. Instead of trying to silence your mind chatter, simply love the one who wants to chat. Instead of trying to shift your emotions, just love the one who can't stop feeling. Instead of trying to resolve each fear, simply love the one who's always afraid. Instead of trying to let things go, just love the one who still holds on. Instead of trying to not take things personally, simply love the one who makes life personal. Instead of trying to prove your worth, just love the one who feels worthless, lost, and alone. Instead of trying to leap forward in evolution, simply love the one who feels left behind. Instead of having something to prove, just love the one who came here to play. Instead of bossing yourself around and measuring your progress through spiritual obedience, simply love the one who refuses to listen. Instead of trying to believe, just love the one in doubt. Instead of trying whatever you attempt, simply love the one needing permission to be. Whatever arises, love that. This is the way of an awakening heart. Just keep breathing. And then bring yourself back to the room when you're ready. So I want to open it up for some conversation, dialogue, any questions you may have, but I just want to leave you with a couple of quotations as we share this time together. This is an Apache prayer, and I thought it was really beautiful. Looking behind, I am filled with gratitude. Looking forward, I am filled with vision. Looking upward, I am filled with strength. And looking within, I discover peace. And then the other one is, and I've used this song before at Lake Harriet, but it's one of my favorite songs called Part of Something Beautiful by Alexi Murdoch. And so my blessing for all of us today is, may the grace of God be with you, always in your heart. May you find the truth inside you from the start. And may you find the strength to know that you are a part of something beautiful. Thank you all for being here today. Now let's open it up for some comments.